ravioli.
The Legend of Zelda. Beautiful overworlds, dangerous dungeons, and immaculate soundtracks, a series full of adventure, discovery, adorable blonde princesses, and mute dudes in green miniskirts. The Legend of Zelda series is one of the greatest video game franchises in the world. But I gotta say, it seems like most Zelda fans suffer from nostalgia vision, a condition that causes you to overlook any shortcomings your favorite Zelda game might have, therefore declaring it's the best in the series, even if it really might not be. Now, of course, an opinion is an opinion. If you choose to believe Triforce Heroes is the best Zelda game, you are entitled to your own opinion, but you can go ahead and leave. So the point of this video series is for me to replay all of the Zelda games, except Triforce Heroes, to once and for all decide what my favorite Zelda game is, without the nostalgia influencing my decision. I haven't played a lot of these games again since I was a kid, so it's just all nostalgia for me. It's gonna be hard, but I'll do my best to be objective. I'll also be playing the most current version of any given Zelda game, and of course this video and series will be full of spoilers. I'll be talking about key moments from the end game among other things, so you've been warned. Sorry, I'll be right back, the dog's just getting into something.
Hey dude, it's your pal Rare. Just want to remind you, it's Wind Waker, not Wind Wanker. Love you, pal. Hope the video goes great.
Okay, I'm back. Sorry about that. So anyways, with all of that being said, we're going to start off this journey with The Legend of Zelda, The Wind Wanker. Wait. This was in fact my first Zelda game, my favorite Zelda game, and therefore the best Zelda game. Honestly though, after playing through Wind Waker for admittedly my 7th time, I do really think this is a good Zelda game. The soundtrack, the world design, the art style, despite how much hate it gets, is all top notch, and compared to modern games, Wind Waker still holds up fairly well to this day with some minor pains that we'll talk about. But first, let's go over the basic premise of The Wind Waker. Basically, Link is an island bumpkin called to action on his 10th birthday to save his little sister from the clutches of a giant bird that shows up at his island after being chased by some pirates. The whole opening segment of the game lasts about 45 minutes before you're off on a pirate ship to save your sister. A brilliant opening sequence in my opinion. It gives you a good chance to explore the island, teaches you some controls, and introduces you into the story, but unfortunately, it's all followed up by Metal Gear Solid for the PlayStation 1.
If you're spotted, all the enemies will come to attack you at once. That's alert mode.
So Link gets yeeted onto an island called the Forsaken Fortress and drops his sword, leaving you to stealth your way around looking for your sister. Honestly, this part kinda sucks. They don't give you a lot of guidance on where to go, and if you get caught, you get sent to a jail. A mechanic that annoyingly makes its way into later segments of the game. Like, I get it, I understand why you'd be sent to a prison cell if you got caught, but it's such an annoying setback each time, especially with how confusing the map is. It's not that it's overly complicated, it's just that all the halls kinda look the same, so it makes it easy to get turned around. It's kind of unfortunate this is right near the start of the game. If it was something that happened later on, once you were immersed into the game itself, it wouldn't be so bad, but at this point you might not be fully sold on the game yet, and this could definitely make people drop it. I know that when I was a kid and I played this for the first time, I couldn't figure out what the hell I was doing, and it wasn't until years later that I actually picked up Wind Waker again and ended up finishing it. But anyways, finally, after making your way through the Forsaken Fortress, you rescue your sister and you save the day. Roll credits.
Hey, it's Rare again. I forgot to mention, don't make the joke about the game ending after Link finds his sister. It's like a 3 out of 10 joke at best. Anyways, love you again. Bye-bye.
Once again, the big bad bird comes to mess things up for Link, but this time we get one of my favorite scenes in the whole game. The bird carries Link outside of the Forsaken Fortress all the way to the very top, where you come face to face with Ganondorf. The scene is just perfect. It's the first time the player learns that something bigger is going on. There's no dialogue exchanged here, it's just Link in the clutches of a giant evil bird, helpless to do anything, and Ganondorf giving the nod to dispose of him. It really just paints a picture of how dangerous Ganondorf is and how weak Link currently is at this point in the game. It just sets the tone really well for the rest of the adventure. So, once again, Link gets yeeted off into the distance and this time wakes up to a talking boat.
Hey, you okay, bro?
It's at this point that the game really opens up, letting you sail around on the King of Red Lions and explore the massive map. For me, this is where I got really into the game. For many, this was where they decided Wind Wanker sucks and they never wanted to play it again. Let me explain. The world is broken up into 49 chunks, each with an explorable island within it. Tons of people kind of hated this. Sailing from island to island is kind of boring, and that's fair. Aside from some rupees popping up here and there, it really is just mindless sailing. But I say this, when's the last time you saw a 380 Super Sport crossover Formula Performance boat in a Zelda game? Sailing's a slow process. You saw the box art, you saw the sailboat, this is on you. You knew what you were getting into. What part of the massive ocean on the box art made you think you wouldn't be traveling by sailboat? Wind Waker was basically an open world game without officially being labeled one. It was kind of ahead of its time. I think within the context of the circumstances, the sailing makes a lot of sense. It's an adventure. There's a pirate theme. Exploring the ocean takes time and patience, something that unfortunately a lot of people don't have. Wind Waker is the definition of it's about the journey, not the destination. Personally, for me, I think the sailing adds to the fun. The ocean theme swelling in the background as a new unexplored island appears on the horizon really made it feel like a grand adventure on a vast ocean. And really, it's kind of amazing they pulled this off on the GameCube. It just sucks that a lot of people pass it off as too slow or boring and don't give Wind Waker a proper chance. There's even a few ways to speed up the sailing process, like a fast sail unlocked through an auction minigame and a somewhat limited fast travel system that you can unlock if you come across this tornado dude on the ocean and defeat him. I think these are musts for any Wind Wanker playthrough, but I do agree that these things should be much easier to obtain, being such integral abilities. Without these, yeah, the sailing gets pretty tedious, but with them you move much faster and you can teleport to about 2 or 3 blocks from any given location you're trying to get to. And I'll have you know, sailing across an entire block only takes about 30 seconds. So really, you're only about a minute and a half away from any island you need to get to if you've got both of these abilities. Another big complaint I've heard about the game is the titular Wind Waker. The Wind Waker is a conductor's baton given to Link so that he can change the direction of the winds, among other things. Link just pulls out his little stick, shakes it around a bit, and he can wank the winds. Wait, did I say wank? Anyways, having to do this every single time you gotta change directions in your boat is absolutely annoying, no doubt about it. But when's the last time you saw a sailboat move without wind? Do you even know what sailing is? Google a sailboat and tell me where you see the motor. But once again, the fast sail eliminates the need to change the wind's direction by automatically keeping the wind behind you anytime the fast sail is active. So really, the major complaints I've heard from people are remedied with the fast sail and the teleporting song. The other huge major complaint is the art style. Flashback to Space World 2000, we saw a tech demo for what the future of Zelda could look like. A realistic looking Link and Ganondorf duking it out got so many fans excited for the next installment, and they got this. I mean, I can't blame anyone for not liking the colorful cartoony style they went with, especially after seeing what could have been, but I don't think it's any reason to disregard Wind Waker as a game. Link is more expressive than ever and the style fits the world perfectly, but really with this, I can't give you a reason that makes it all better like the fast sail and the wind wanking. This one's just up to preference. You don't like the art style, you don't like the art style, and that's kind of it. So those are the major complaints I hear from others, and with those aside, let's talk about what Zelda is all about. The dungeons and the adventures between them. I often see Zelda games as 2 chunks, the overworld and the dungeons. The overworld in Wind Waker consists of all the sailing and the islands, and the dungeons consist of dungeons. What, did you think I was going to add something else? The dungeons in Wind Waker are fine when it comes to puzzles. I don't think there's any that really stand out all too much other than the Earth Temple and its mirror puzzles. For such a simple idea, they did a really good job making the last major room in this temple really satisfying. The coolest part of these dungeons are the locations. There's a giant volcano that you have to scale, and there's a giant tree that you have to explore, and there's a giant tower that comes busting out of the ocean. There's also 2 buddy dungeons where you complete said dungeon with a little sidekick. One of which is my favorite in the entire game, and the other one I wish never even existed. In these dungeons, the Earth and the Wind Temples, you can switch between Link and Makar or Medley to complete various puzzles. Medley can use her harp thing like a mirror shield, giving you some neat double mirror shield puzzles, and she can carry Link across gaps, and Makar can fly and plant trees that Link can use his hookshot in. These were cool ideas, but they could have been executed better. First off, anytime you want to switch between Link or his partner, you have to whip out the Wind Wanker and play the command melody. This was a little bit tedious, and in hindsight, it would have been much better if you could just hit a button and swap, or at least autoplay the command melody. It's annoying, but forgivable. What isn't forgivable is this little piece of shit acting like a moron anytime this pillar of wind decides to blow a slight breeze in his general direction. See, the central area in the Wind Temple has this huge fan placed at the bottom that triggers periodically. Using the gust, you can traverse up and down to enter various rooms of the dungeon. But Makar apparently forgets how to fly anytime he gets caught in the gust, leaving you plummeting to the bottom. I don't know, the Wind Temple's just kind of a big pain in the ass. I'm just not a huge fan. Controlling Makar's flight just does not feel great. Both Makar and Medley feel like they weren't fleshed out quite enough, so it can make things fairly frustrating. Of the two though, Medley definitely controlled the best. I think it was mainly due to her flight mechanic being very straightforward. Literally. She flies in a straight line, and her only other mechanic just had you positioning her wherever you needed and leaving Link to do the rest. So really, in this game there's two examples of how a buddy system could work. One with Medley, which was more like an extra tool while traversing the dungeon, and one with Makar, which was more just like babysitting. That's what you get for letting a houseplant tag along on a dungeon escapade. The biggest problem with both of these dungeons is either Makar or Medley, when they get captured by an enemy, get sent to a prison within said dungeon. This is stupid. Zelda dungeons are fun because they provide challenges that make you feel smart, and they always make you feel like you're making progress with that big wrinkle in your head. When there's a confusing puzzle or a major roadblock like your partner getting sent to an entire another room in the temple, it takes that feeling of progression away, and that, in my opinion, defeats the purpose of a Zelda dungeon. Getting stuck or detoured, especially if it keeps happening, isn't fun. So once you finish the Wind Temple, the next section of the game requires Link to gather the 8 pieces of the Triforce scattered across the ocean. This is a huge stopping point for a lot of people. They basically give you a map that you can reference that shows you roughly where the Triforce pieces are, but I think the best way to go about it is charting the entire ocean. This is my favorite part of the entire game. Each island can be mapped by dropping bait for this little fish dude, and mapping every island is a big part of any playthrough I do. This is where I really think that Wind Wanker's design with all of these scattered islands really shines. Individual islands each feel like a hidden secret, with most of them being unique, save for a few repeats like the fairy islands. It's almost like the Breath of the Wild shrine concept. Each shrine has a different mini dungeon inside of them, just like each island has its own puzzles and secrets to discover. You really never knew what an island would be like, so it was always a treat exploring a new one. A big bonus to mapping the entire ocean is by the time you're done, you would most likely have all of the Triforce pieces, or at least the treasure maps that lead to them, making the Triforce hunt feel like way less of a grind and more of just a big ass exploration sesh. You'll also have visited all of the fairy upgrade islands at that point and be fully kitted out for the final battle. The only exception is one Triforce piece, which is locked behind a sort of side quest on Windfall Island. This one, I agree, can be a bit grindy, especially if you don't know it exists. So really, there's two things left to talk about here. The story of Wind Waker isn't all that complicated. It's a classic tale of hero saves a princess, but the real joy comes from all of the goofy characters you meet along the way. Nico the dumb pirate, Tetra the sassy princess, and this pig you can throw off a cliff. Piggy, come here. I must fulfill the ancient tradition. I must do this. It's just the way it is. The characters make the story enjoyable enough, but let's face it, it's a Zelda game. This isn't the Lord of the Rings trilogy or anything, so don't be expecting anything too crazy. Now that second thing I mentioned, which ties perfectly into the story topic, is the end game. The final moments can make or break any game, and Wind Waker does not disappoint. First off, Hyrule Castle is underneath the gosh dang ocean, and that's just cool as heck. Halfway through the game, you venture down to a Hyrule Castle frozen in time. It's here that you find out sassy Tetra is actually Princess Zelda and acquire the Master Sword. This is both a cool little twist and a bit of a letdown. Once Tetra is revealed as Princess Zelda, it's like she forgets that she was a pirate and falls into the woe is me damsel in distress role, but a little bit of her pirate attitude shines through in the final moments, so I guess it's forgivable. Anyways, after the last few dungeons, it's only appropriate that the final confrontation take place underneath the ocean you've been adventuring on top of this whole time. Ganon's Tower, the final area in the game, actually has you refighting 4 of the previous bosses after traversing small dungeon sections inspired by said bosses' dungeons. A cool little touch. It kind of reminds you of how much you've been through to get to this point. And you get to fight Mulgara again, who arguably has the best boss theme in the whole game. After the bosses, a door unlocks and you climb some ominous stairs and confront the final boss. Remember when I said I had a couple things I didn't like about Wind Waker? Well, one of them is super apparent in the third phase of this battle. When you zoom in to target with your bow or hookshot or any other weapon, the camera zooms in the direction Link is facing, not the direction your camera is pointed. The final stage of this fight, Snake Ganon, requires you to take aim and shoot Snake Ganon's tail with light arrows. Which, holy shit man, this guy is fast as fuck, boy! You also require magic power to use the light arrows, and it seems in pretty limited supply in this boss area. Not to mention you have to hookshot up to these ledges to replenish it. More often than not, Snake Ganon ganked me in the corner while I was trying to get up to get more magic, and it just got frustrating. This isn't really Wind Waker's fault as a whole, but more of just a result of older game design. But after that little upset, you finally climb the rest of the tower and confront Ganondorf on the roof of his evil lair. The final battle is just perfect. The ocean pours in from above as Link goes toe-to-toe in sword-on-sword combat with the most evil man in the world. Zelda stands by shooting arrows of light to distract him, eventually working together with Link to reflect them off his mirror shield to take Ganon by surprise. It all ends with Link doing a cool Beyblade move and stabbing Ganon in the head, sealing him away forever. Or at least until the next Zelda game. Man, Wind Waker is really good. If you can deal with the slower pace of the sailing till you get the fast sail and a few minor control grievances, Wind Wanker is definitely a Zelda game you should play, or for a lot of you, give another chance. In the grand scheme of things, the ocean sailing mechanic doesn't take up a whole lot of your time, and nearly all of the overworld and dungeon segments are enjoyable. I don't think there's a single part that I actually hate, other than that wind temple. I, of course, have crazy nostalgia surrounding this game. My eyes start pissing every time I hear the title screen theme, but despite all of that, I can still firmly place Wind Waker at the very top of my Zelda tier list for now. As I play through more and more Zelda games, this list might change, and a different title might steal the #1 slot, but until then, it's Wind Wanker all the way. Thank you guys so much for watching. The next episode in this series will be the Minish Cap, so if you don't want to miss it, make sure you subscribe, comment, and send me $1 million. Okay, great, thanks, bye!